Hey guys, Griffinoni here. Before we get started with today's video, I have another nickname suggestion from you all in the comments. Today's nickname suggestion has been brought to us by UberDan9254, and he has suggested the nickname Dull for our Scyther. The reason that he provided is actually very funny, is because Scyther has the modest nature, which means that its sides would be dull because it's an attack-lowering nature. That's a really, really clever way to poke fun at this Scyther. So thank you very much, UberDan, for the suggestion. And now, let us begin the episode. Hey guys, it's Griffinoni here, and welcome back to Pokémon HeartGold. Last time, we flew back to Olivine City. We healed Amphi the Ampharos for storing order at the Olivine Tower / Lighthouse. And we fought Jasmine the Gym Leader in a somewhat underwhelming fight. I admit, I really thought Sealth was going to give us a lot more trouble than she actually did, but Lord knows Mizumori came through. Anyway, this time, with all the gym leaders that we can taken care of, we now find ourselves back here at Cianwood City, because if you recall, we also got a phone call from Boba last time, indicating the Safari Zone is open. And we have a lot to do today because of that. So, like I said, buckle up, because there's so much to unpack here. Let's go! First of all, Cliff Edge Gate is nice and open. Did you know that the Safari Zone just around the corner? It's really fun. You'll see many kinds of Pokemon, and it's all you can catch. There's no reason not to go, right? Just around the corner. It won't take too long. Why don't you drop by, won't you? Yes. All right, just over there. Go upstairs and you'll be outside. That's only a few paces away. What do you say if I say no? She's very enthusiastic. Such a good deal, you know? Okay, well, I was expecting something more from that. Anyway, we're gonna head up this way, go along this particular cliffside. I want to make note again of this climbable rocky thing that we're not gonna be able to do anything with right now, but it is there and you do want to remember it for later. But enough preamble, let's head out. Welcome to Route 47. Now, thing to note about this route, if you've never played the original Gold, Silver, Crystal, then you may not be aware this route did not exist in those games at all. This is an entirely new route that is exclusive to Pokemon HeartGold, and it is a doozy of a route. It leads to some really cool locations, amazing Pokemon, and we have just so much to unpack here. You are a trainer. Longing for the others is what it is, but battles are battles, so let's go. Okay, well, not exactly what I had in mind, but I guess we can go ahead and battle you real quick. It's got 3 Pokemon. It's like, dear Jesus, you have Dunsparce. What is the matter with you? There we go. Critical hit fly, Ceres. That's what we love to see. First instance of fly and it lands a critical. Wahaha! God bless. Nothing particularly interesting happened in this battle aside from debilitating my Pokemon with Dunsparce. Huey, what do you got? Sup? This is Huey, how are ya? How are your Pokemon doing? My Pokemon are a bit too energetic. Poliwag especially. Every time it spots a trainer, it just charges ahead into battle. It gets to be a bit much for me. Later! Thank you for sharing, Huey. Now go find your brothers. Now, another thing to note about this particular area, and there's a reason I have Ceres at the front. If we talk to Ceres while you're on Route 47, Ceres is flying through the sky with grace. Yeah, so if you bring out a flying type in this specific area around the cliffs, flying types get really excited because they love this open environment with all the cliffs. So it's really interesting to see. Looks like we have another trainer that I need to fight here, but I do need to heal up because I got debilitated. All right, trainer, what do you got? I'm not good with large crowds, so I'm camping out here with my Pokemon. Are you the same way? Absolutely not. Akira at level 26 as a result of beating a specific Pokemon. Alright, nothing particularly interesting happened in this fight either. I didn't even have enough time to read his dialogue. What do you got, Grant? See ya! Okay, well, see you to you too. Anyway, right here is a revive. Very, very useful item. Now, there actually is one other thing that you can do here with your walking Pokemon, and unfortunately, I didn't get a Ditto for this, but if you actually bring out a Ditto in this area, you will get Ditto, appearance didn't change. I don't know why they have a specific bit of dialogue for Ditto specifically, but they do. Now, I want to head into this cave next. And in this cliff cave, I actually want to go down first, just to start things off. So there is a bit of an area that we can walk around in, and in here, we can find a Krabby. No, there actually is a whole other Pokemon. Well, there are actually two other Pokemon that we can find in the cliff cave specifically. And I want to talk about them real quick because it is important that we go over what is available here. It really is fascinating. So the first Pokemon that we can find in the cliff cave is Steelix. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, didn't you already cover Steelix when you got Onix? Yes, but here's the thing. During that bio, I had mentioned that Steelix could later be caught in the wild, and this is the point where we can now do that. This reality was only made possible as of Gen 4. All Gen 4 games have at least one area where you can catch a Steelix in the wild, and the fact that you could straight up catch a trade evolution Pokemon in the wild is absolutely insane. So if you didn't want to bother with Onix and liked what I said about Steelix, now is the time to catch it. Now, the next new Pokemon that we can find around here can only be found in these caves of Route 47 at night, and that is Mischievous. Mischievous is the second ghost type that we have found and the first pure ghost type in the series. Unlike Ghastly, Mischievous only carries the pros and cons of being a ghost type, including being immune to normal and fire type attacks, and more importantly, not being weak to psychic or ground type attacks. Not that the latter matters too much thanks to its levitate ability. This Pokemon is made to be a special sweeper, with its best stats being base 85 in special attack, special defense, and speed. It learns a mix of both ghost and psychic type attacks and a couple of dark and rock moves for additional coverage. It even has a semi-signature move called Pain Split. This move takes the combined total of the current HP of the user and the opponent, then redistributes the amount equally so that both Pokemon wind up with the same amount. When used correctly, this can be used to restore Mr. Viz's HP while lowering the opponent's HP by a potentially significant amount. And while Mr. Viz is far from the only Pokemon that can learn it, it is the only Pokemon in the game that can learn it via level up. So what's the problem exactly? Well, when Mr. Viz was introduced, the idea of a pure special attacking ghost type seemed like a good idea. But at the time, ghost type attacks seldom existed. Back in Gen 2, the only ghost type move that conventionally dealt damage was Shadow Ball, which at the time was physical because of how the move system worked back then. Despite the fact that Shadow Ball, even back then, had a 30% chance of lowering the opponent's special defense. So Mischievous couldn't really perform the way it wanted to. Fortunately, once again, Gen 4 came through for Mischievous by not only giving us the physical special split, but also giving Mischievous an evolution in the form of Mismagius. This evolution boosts its decent stats even further to base 105, making Mismagius even more capable of doing what it was meant to do, being a really good special sweeper that can also take special attacks well. This change is great, but there is one problem. In order to evolve Mischievous into Mismagius, you need to give it a Dusk Stone, which is an item that will not be available until the post-game. And while there will be multiple ways to get a Dusk Stone once you get to that point, none of them lack in their tedium. So until then, you're stuck with Mischievous. Don't get me wrong, Mischievous is a solid special attacker with some great support tricks, but it's no powerhouse. Also, regardless of where it is in its development, it's not as great at dishing or taking physical attacks. So be mindful when using it in battle. If you do decide to raise one, not that you have much say in how long you have to wait, but I recommend waiting to evolve it until it gets to at least level 37, where it will learn Shadow Ball, which Mismagius cannot learn via level up, like many stone evolutions. So that covers the bios that we have for this particular cave. Now I want to see if I can't find myself a Steelix. Close, but no cigar. Okay, upon closer inspection of my notes, the Steelix's encounter rate for this specific area is only 2%, so in the interest of saving time, I am going to hold off on this for now, because we have a lot more to talk about in terms of Pokemon we can find. Now, as you can see, we have some water areas that we can now explore. And with Surf, we can now fully access them. Not that we have the ability to check this otherwise. Oh! Staryu! Okay, well, not the Pokemon I was intending to talk about or find, but given our situation, we can go ahead and catch this. Staryu's a great Pokemon, and I'd love to get this thing. Not that I intend to use it in any way, but it's still a really good Pokemon. All right, Headbutt shouldn't do it, please. Okay, thank goodness. Righto, you're coming through for me, buddy. I definitely need to buy some more Pokeballs, though. Because while I have enough Pokeballs to get through the day, probably not the next few weeks. Either way, we got ourselves a Staryu, nice and properly. Nice thing is about this Staryu is that we didn't have to wait till night to find it. So if you didn't want to bother with it at night, this may be a good way to get it. Staryu, the star-shaped Pokemon. At night, evidently, the middle of its body slowly flickers with the same rhythm as a human heartbeat. If you'd like to give a nickname to this Staryu, feel free to recommend one in the comments. Okay, now before we continue on, as we can obviously see with the bodies of water, there are some Pokemon that we have not been able to get until now. And there's actually one new Pokemon that we can catch that we've never seen before. And that Pokemon is Seel. Now, Seel is a case of a perfectly whelming water type. It's not underwhelming by any means, but it is outclassed. But let's look at its strengths. It starts out as a pure water type and has good HP and defenses right out of the gate. It has access to Surf and gets good ice type moves such as Ice Shard at level 17 and Aurora Beam at level 27, giving it some good coverage for its weakness to grass and will definitely be helpful against certain opponents in the future. This is made even better once Seel evolves into Dugong at level 34, giving it even better bulk and the ice subtype, allowing its ice type moves to hit even harder. Unfortunately, Seel and Dugong are not spectacular when it comes to their offensive stats. They're not bad by any means, but we've come across a lot of water types on our journey that can do their job better while still remaining bulky. They're also pretty slow, but Ice Shard does help make up for that. All that said, they're not bad by any means. They're a great pair of Pokemon that are capable of more than you think, but they're just ultimately outclassed. Still, if you've never given these Pokemon a try and want to try something different, I could definitely recommend them. The only thing I'm going to highly suggest you do is to teach Surf right away, mainly because Seel doesn't learn any water type attacks to level up until level 31. Thank God we have Surf. Okay, so let's see if we can't find a Seel here. Well, there we go. That worked out very nicely. Thank you, game. There we go. Seel has been caught. Seel's head has been added to the Pokedex. Seel, the sea lion Pokemon. Although it can't walk well on land, it is a graceful swimmer. It especially loves being in frigid seas. If you would like to give a nickname to Seel, feel free to recommend one in the comments. Alright, now I do believe there is something right here, a pearl. Very nice. I want to head a little further down this way because there is a little bit more that we can do here. As soon as I stop getting interrupted. All right, now right here, we have a waterfall. And I believe we can interact with it in some way. A wall of water is crashing down with a mighty roar. Now, we're not going to be able to do anything with this right now, but I want you to remember this waterfall here for later, because we will be able to do something here once we get some further abilities. But for now, we're just going to press on further west. And I do want you to make note of this cliff here. Again, another rocky, climby cliff here that we're not going to be able to do anything with for now. But trust me, once we do have the ability to scale these walls, there is some really, really cool stuff that we can do here. I just want you to make note of it for later. Okay, so that takes care of everything that we can do down here for now. Like I said, there isn't too much we can do at the moment, but I just want to be sure that you were aware of what is down here. What's your deal, guy? We see a fork in the road inside a cave. Most likely one way is right, and the other leads to a dead end. But people can't help trying both. Do you want to go up the ladder or go down the ladder? Well, I want to get interrupted by a wild Pokemon. Obviously. Thanks, Geodude. Now, obviously, now that we've dealt with the right path, we're going to go up the left path. And right out here, there is another pair of people that we need to battle. So, since that is the case, I think I'm going to go ahead and have Saris and Raido for this next fight, because they're the lowest level Pokemon, and, well, they need a little bit of support. 1 + 1 is 2, but the two of us together is much stronger. Why do you have this encounter theme? The two of us aren't just some boring pair. Well, we're going to find out if that's really the case. Well, that's all you seem to have. It's just the boring pair. Okay, well, you know what? Electabuzz and Magmar. That is by no means a boring pair. I actually probably need to switch out. Like, badly. But yeah, I'm gonna like to get Saris out of here. I wanted her to get some more experience, but not with Electabuzz present. At least not like this. I know I could use Mizumori, but I was worried about that. Because Electabuzz knows Thunderbolt. And I figured that Mizumori wasn't going to be able to handle it. Fortunately, Akira synchronized Paralyzed Electabuzz too. So, we're looking real nice. We need to deal with this Electabuzz quickly. Unnecessary Shadow Ball critical hit, but we take it. Alright, and Raido grew to level 26. Very useful. So, I guess this is a good time to show this off, since we're in a relatively good position. So, Surf has changed its mechanics in Gen 4. So, back in Gen 3 and prior, well, I guess it only really matters for Gen 3. So, in Gen 3, when Surf was used in a double battle, it hit both opponents. However, in Gen 4 onwards, Surf changed slightly. Let me show you. After I select my moves. Okay, this is a problem. So Magmar protected itself, but Surf still goes off, because Surf also hits your ally Pokemon. God dang, come on! Why do I get the critical hit on my own Pokemon? Really? All the better to demonstrate the problems with Surf, I suppose. So yeah, as you can see, Surf is problematic in double battles. So be very careful. Good job, Mizumori. You got the most out of this. That wasn't what I expected. You're unusual too. Yeah, I'll say. Unusual. I took out everything, including my own Pokemon. Got $6,000 for winning that fight. That's insane. Anyway, we're gonna head a little further to the left. And right here. Despite the fact that it's right there, we can't quite serve over this particular water. They don't want us going in the water just yet, but we can at least get this specific item, the Lagging Tail. I believe that halves your speed? Hold up. So it's tremendously heavy and makes the holder move slower than usual. I believe that either lowers your speed or lowers your priority. Either way, it makes it less likely that you are going to go first. So it is a good item in the right circumstances, but you have to know exactly what you're doing with it. Also, it's totally Onyx's tail. Anyway, we're gonna head up this way. It looks like we have yet another double battle. I need to do a little bit of healing. All right, let's give Saris and Raido another shot with another double battle here. Watching over my girlfriend makes my heart soar. My heart's feelings for my boyfriend are as wide and deep as the ocean. I don't know why, that line perturbs me. Anyway, young couple Duff and Ida. What are you, the name of that beer from The Simpsons? I don't know. It's hard to make jokes sometimes, all right? probably confuse Cloyster while I'm at this process. Or, never mind, critical hit from Rhydо Thundershock. Let's go, baby. Interesting. We appear to have a speed tie between Rhydo and Onyx, because it's not always consistently going first. Alright, well, chipped away bit by bit, and we eventually took down Onyx. Fantastic. I was no match for you. You're really something. No new contacts still. You should really find a wonderful partner, too. Game. It's such a fruitless endeavor. Thank you for the awe-inspiring battle. Bye. Well, gee, thanks. Anyway, we're going to head a little further up here, and now we find ourselves on Route 48. We're very close to getting the Safari Zone, and trust me, we are still going to do the Safari Zone. We're not going to stop there. We're going to keep plowing ahead. Now, on this route, there is one patch of grass. And with it, there is one new Pokemon that we can find here. And that is Diglett. Diglett is our second instance of a pure ground type. And unlike the first one, this one actually functions as a ground type in all respects, and much sooner. Plus, it's got some unique traits to set it apart. The main thing to notice is its speed. Right out of the gate, Diglett comes with base 95 speed, which is already fantastic, especially for a ground type. But then its speed skyrockets to base 120 once it evolves into Dugtrio, making it the absolute fastest ground type in the game. It also comes with good ground type moves that you can and will use for a while, and nearly all of them come extremely early. It gets Magnitude at level 12, Dig at level 19, Earth Power at level 26, Mud Bomb at level 33, Earthquake at level 45, and Fissure at level 50, which is an extremely low accuracy one-hit KO move. And that's completely disregarding the other great moves it learns like Slash and Sucker Punch. It also comes with a semi-signature ability in the form of Arena Trap, which prevents the opponent from fleeing, which has great utility both against trainers and against certain roaming beasts. The only downside to it is that it also doubles your wild encounter rate, so you do want to be mindful. That said, no Pokemon is perfect. Diglett and Dugtrio may hit decently hard and very fast, but its HP and defenses are seriously lacking, unlike many other ground types. It also doesn't have a wide variety of coverage outside of ground and rock type attacks, and doesn't have much going for it in the way of support or status moves to offset its mediocre defenses. Still, it's a great Pokemon for sweeping teams or mounting a comeback, and will definitely be helpful in future battles if you decide to go for it. Just be careful when pitting it against more bulky opponents. If you do plan on catching it, I recommend doing what you can to have 2 Dugtrio, one to keep and one to trade for later. Now then, since we're here, let's go ahead and make an effort to catch Diglett. I believe there's also an item that we can get if we head back over this way. Let's actually check to see what this item is before we really go in for Diglett. Another nugget! Fantastic. That's 5,000 more monies. There's Diglett. Now I'm just going to go ahead and use Bite because I'm pretty sure even though Ceres is a flying type, Arena Trap still works. Like I said, Diglett does not have the absolute best defenses in the world, so you do want to be extremely careful when hitting it with basically anything. Let me try again. Dang it! Hey, I can't even put one hit on Diglett without knocking it out. There's nothing I can do. Okay, I'm gonna save Diglett for a little later because evidently I don't have what I need to safely catch it. Like, yes, I can take hits. I can't dish anything out without knocking Diglett out. My Pokemon are too good, guys. I don't know what to tell you. We have to save them for later. Anyway, welcome to the Safari Zone Gate. We are in a beautiful, magical place. Safari Zone makes me feel like I'm in a foreign country. It brings up a strange feeling. Oh boy, does it. Before we do anything, I am going to heal at the Pokemon Center because boy do I really need the healing. While we're here, what do you have to say, child? Those who come to a Pokemon Center ought to take good care of their Pokemon. Wouldn't you agree? I'd like to think so. Mother, I will deal with you later. After a long walk in the mountains to find a Pokemon Center, when you're just about to fall flat, then it feels like you're in paradise. I'm glad these people really appreciate their Pokemon Center. And I'd appreciate my own healthcare system if they weren't so greedy. But I won't get into specifics right now. Anyway, as you can see, we have some vendors out here, and they actually do sell some really cool stuff. And I do want to go over them before we actually get into the main thing on our plate today. Oh, you want to buy something? Can you wait while I get it ready? Just a minute. Welcome. What do you need? All right, what do you got? So she here has some really cool stuff. So aside from selling airmail, she has 3 new Pokeballs that we can get here, and these are worth your time. First of all, the Nest Ball, a somewhat different Pokeball that works especially well on weaker Pokemon in the wild. This is based on, I think, both like level and also their stats, so definitely want to consider this. But the real appealing ones are the Quick Ball and the Dusk Ball. These are 2 new Pokeballs that were introduced in this generation, and oh man. So Quick Ball, one of the best game changers ever. A somewhat different Pokeball that provides a better catch rate if it is used at the start of a wild encounter. This Pokeball is a 4 times multiplier, but only if it is used on turn 1. There are many instances where you would want to catch a Pokemon but can't really actually lower its HP, or maybe you just want to increase your odds as best as possible. A Quick Ball is a great item to help facilitate that. There are many times where you can capture even legendary Pokemon where all you need to do is throw a Quick Ball, and then you're good. So this is definitely something to consider. Additionally, there is the Dusk Ball item, a somewhat different Pokeball that makes it easier to catch wild Pokemon at night or in dark places like caves. So this is somewhat situational as to when you can use it, but this also has a 4 times multiplier when used under the right conditions. So really, really, really useful Pokeballs, and I highly recommend having a few on hand. In fact, just to help prove my point in the long run, I'm going to buy 10 of these. I do not care. I really do believe the Quick Ball is one of the best balls in the game, and it's absolutely worth your time to buy. Now over here, we have an old man here that also sells some stuff. I decided to carry Pokemon drinks. This will be new to me, but I will do my best. Welcome, what do you need? So here, he will sell the various stat boosting items. They're not really any cheaper, and they're not really all that more worth than the department store, but if you do want to buy them here, you definitely can get them. I'm not going to focus on buying them right now because I don't have money to burn, despite the fact that I just spent $10,000 on 10 Pokeballs, but they're really good Pokeballs, guys. There are many Pokemon to choose from, but nothing beats the cuteness of Slowpoke. People often say that I look like one. Lady, I hate to tell you this, but you need to get new friends if they're telling you that. What do you have to say, Slowpoke? Yawn? Well, at least he has his priorities straightened out. Now, what do you have to sell, child? Safari Safari is so much fun. Safari Safari is so interesting, huh? So many Pokemon are waiting for us. That's a song I made up. I sing it when I'm in the Safari Zone. Well, it looks like he doesn't actually have anything to sell us, but what do you have, lady? I am not a talker. Well, guess we'll leave it at that then. And what do you have to say? The Safari Zone is great. I just kept it going after Pokemon. They made my Jigglypuff upset, though. Interesting they make your Jigglypuff so upset specifically. Poo, poo, poo. Okay, well, let's get to it, guys. We are at the Safari Zone. I did not read the sign. This is where everything is thrilling. Feel free to come by and experience the wild. It's time, guys. Let's do it. It's time for the Safari Zone episode to really get started. Hi, I've been waiting for you. What do you think? This is a brand new Safari Zone. By the way, I just had an idea. Would you like to take the owner aptitude test? Yes, I do. Right on. Let me explain how the test works. It's very easy. All you have to do is catch one Geodude at the Safari Zone and show it to me. They are in the grass closest to the entrance. It shouldn't take long before you catch one. Good luck. All right, so yes, we do want to do the owner aptitude test. I'll go over the specifics of everything that we can do in the facility, but for now, I do want to just do the main thing that we're able to do. What do you have to say, Guy? Hi, is it your first time here at the Safari Zone? Yes, it is. So I will allow him to provide an explanation of the things that go on here. At the Safari Zone, you can enjoy a safari game where you are given 30 safari balls to try to catch Pokemon. When you have run out of safari balls, the game is over. When you see a Pokemon, you can choose to throw bait or mud. If you throw bait, Pokemon tend to stay but will become more difficult to catch. If you throw mud, it will become easier to catch, but the Pokemon may flee. Have fun at the Safari Zone. Yes, we'll go over those mechanics as we are presented with them, but yes, that is generally how the Safari Zone game works. It really has not changed, at least conceptually, from the original Safari Zone, but there are a couple of tweaks that we want to bear in mind. Welcome to the Safari Zone. For just $500, you can play a safari game. You can roam the wide open Safari Zone and catch whatever you like. Would you like to play? Yes, I do. There'll be 500, please. Here are your safari balls. You receive 30 safari balls from the attendant. We'll call for you when you run out of safari balls. Well, hope you enjoy it. Go and have fun. It's so exciting, guys. So, the thing to note about this Safari Zone is actually divided into 6 areas right now. Right now, we want to focus on staying in the frontmost area because we do need to catch a Geodude in the Safari Zone if we want to make progress in the other aptitude test. That is not a Geodude. But as we can see here, we have different options in the UI. So instead of fight, bag, or Pokemon and run, we have ball, bait, mud, and run. So if I want to catch a Pokemon, I need to throw a ball. If I want to throw bait at it, like so, I just need to hit bait. And I'll throw the bait at Magnemite, which will make it more likely that Magnemite will stick around. Well, for you too, Magnemite. I didn't want you anyway. Anyway, let's try going after that Geodude because we still need to go for that. Okay, another Magnemite. Since we do have the Magnemite here, I'm going to throw mud at it just to demonstrate what happens when you do that. So I'll throw mud. Magnemite is angry, and that caused him to flee. Now, I do believe that this did change slightly from how it used to be, because I believe previously it used to be rocks. But then they thought, hey, you know what? Let's not throw rocks at animals. But anyway, we got a Geodude right here, so I'm going to go ahead and throw a ball. Throws a Safari Ball. I'm not quite clear what the Safari Ball's catch rate is. I want to say it's 2, but I'll put a visual on screen once it's established. But the main thing that we need to do is we need to catch the Geodude, because that is the #1 priority at this moment. Once we get that done, then we can focus on the other segments of the Safari Zone. Oh! A wild Magneton! Well, since I haven't caught a Magneton before, I'll at least give it a shot. 1, 2, 3. Oh, nice! We got a Magneton, and it's under level too, so we get to use all the nice stuff right away. Magneton, the magnet Pokemon. 3 Magnemite are linked by a strong magnetic force. Oh, earaches. Why have I not seen earaches recently? Earaches will occur if you get too close. If you want to give a separate nickname to Magneton specifically, feel free to recommend one in the comments. Okay, many Magnemite and Magnetons later, I found another Geodude. Hopefully this one will be a little more cooperative with me. 1. Oh boy, please don't leave. Okay, he's still here. 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. We got the Geodude. Now, some of you may be wondering if I could have just used the Geodude that I caught previously when we were in Union Cave. No, it will not work. In order to pass the owner aptitude test, you actually do have to catch a Geodude specifically in the Safari Zone. There's no 2 ways about it. So now we got Geodude, let's move on. So here we have a whole other area where we can catch additional Pokemon. Here we have a Wild Machop. Now, I'm not going to go over any specific Pokemon that we can find here right now because I do want to save that for after we finish this session. But trust me, there's a lot of Pokemon we can find here. Including Magnemite again. Oh my god, we finally found Ditto. Okay, we need to try to grab this. 1. Nope. Okay, come on. Ditto, please. I really want to get this. Ditto has been so elusive for so long. Dang it. Maybe we'll find Ditto again. Hopefully. Alright, another shot at Ditto. Please, 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 please. 1, 2, 3. Oh, thank goodness. We finally got Ditto. Oh my god. Fantastic. Ditto, the transform Pokemon. It can transform into anything. When it sleeps, it changes into a stone to avoid being attacked. Now, did I already get a nickname for Ditto recommended previously? No, I have not. So if you want to give a nickname recommendation for Ditto at long last, feel free to recommend one in the comments. So one thing I want to note is right here, I believe, this is a bit of a small reference to the Great Marsh. It doesn't function the same way as the Great Marsh, but this particular bit of mud is a reference to the Great Marsh Safari Zone that is found in the Sinnoh region. It sucks. The Great Marsh, I think we can all agree, is not a great Safari Zone. I get what they were trying to go for, but I think we can all agree it's generally the worst Safari Zone that they've made. Like, this one has other issues, but at the very least, there's some potential variety to the environments, but not with the Great Marsh. Now over here, we're kind of in a more plainsy area, so let's see what we can find here for now. Too late, Abra. You had your chance. All right, in the interest of preserving time and just, not wasting everyone's time here, I'm going to go ahead and finish the Safari game early, so that way I can focus on progressing with the owner aptitude test. So I'm going to retire and exit the Safari Zone right now. Did you have fun? Please come again. I absolutely did. Mother, I do not have time for you right now. Now, for us to actually complete the owner aptitude test, we need to get that Geodude, so I will be right back. Oh, interesting thing to note about the Ditto I caught. It has the Quick Powder item that I talked about in its bio. Very, very nice, actually. All right, Balba, what do you got? Oh, wonderful, you caught a Geodude. You've passed the first test. Huh? Didn't I tell you that there are 2 tests? That's right, becoming an owner is not that easy. The second test is, well, I'm still preparing for it. I will let you know once it's ready. You just need to wait a little. Well, you just need to wait a little. I will call you with the Pokegear. Yes, so let's talk about that. So there are 2 different phases to the owner aptitude test. And we're not going to be able to do the second phase for a little while. Because in order to unlock the second phase, and there really is nothing that you can do to kind of advance this, you have to wait 3 in-game hours. And that's not you advancing the clock 3 hours. That is the game's time advancing by 3 hours. So the only way to go at this is to play the game for an additional 3 hours. And while I could sit around here and wait for 3 hours like a madman, I'm not going to subject myself or yourself to that. Plus, we're going to have an occasion to visit the Safari Zone later on. So I'm not going to focus on the second half of the owner aptitude test today, but I will go over what that will bring to you. So let's look at this thing. It's still under development. I'm sorry, but this can't be used yet. Warden Baba has got a great plan for this machine, or so he says, but even we don't know what it is. It's a secret. So right here, what this machine is, it is called the Area Customizer. Once it's completed, the Area Customizer will allow you to modify the 6 zones that are in the Safari Zone and change their environments. In order to be able to pass the second test, once we do get to that, all you need to do is modify one of the areas to the desert area. But like I said, we're not going to be able to do that for an additional 3 hours. So we will save that for later on. But I will go over what areas you can get for the time being. So among the areas that you can use in the Safari Zone, there are 12 potential areas. They're the plains, forest, wetland, marshland, rocky beach, peak, desert, wasteland, meadow, savanna, mountain, and swamp areas. All these areas can be customized interchangeably, and you can pretty much have any combination of those 6 right next to each other once you get the area customizer unlocked, which can potentially allow you to access many new Pokemon. And speaking of many new Pokemon, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of Safari Zone runs, because I can't imagine I'm going to get this all done in one run. And I'm going to talk about the many new Pokemon that we now have access to, or rather will have access to in some cases, once the area customizer is made available. Like I said, I technically can get this right now if I'm willing to wait for 3 hours, but I'm not. And I want to talk about the Pokemon right now because there's a lot of really cool stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and play another couple Safari games. I'm going to speed things up, play some music, and talk about the Pokemon that we can get here, because, oh boy, there's a lot that we can get, especially once you have the ability to customize the areas. So let's get to it. So first of all, if we go to the peak area at night, this will make Wobbuffet appear. Now this Pokemon has a very unique gimmick. It only knows 4 moves: Counter, Mirror Code, Safeguard, and Destiny Bond. These, along with its enormous HP stat, allow Wobbuffet to act as a counter-attacking Pokemon. Counter deals double the amount of damage Wobbuffet takes if it's hit by a physical attack. Mirror Code does the same, only with special attacks. Safeguard is to ensure that Wobbuffet, along with the rest of your party, cannot be afflicted by status conditions when you try to take it down. And Destiny Bond is there to take down the opponent if Wobbuffet gets taken down itself. When you combine this with its Shadow Attack ability to prevent your opponent from switching Pokemon, it can be devastating. While this may seem like a superficial gimmick at first, Wobbuffet has had a rich history in the competitive meta as one of the best counters to a lot of incredibly powerful Pokemon. That said, however, as much as I love Wobbuffet, and it never ceased to bring me joy whenever it appeared on screen, especially since Wobbuffet was one of the few characters in the anime who did not change voice actors, it's not the best Pokemon to use for single player. It's great at what it does, to be sure, but that process can take time, and trying to use this strategy against every trainer in the game will make using Wobbuffet more tedious than anything else. Still, if you've never given Wobbuffet a shot and you want to have a unique Hail Mary in your back pocket, there are few Pokemon I could recommend over Wobbuffet. It also does have a pre-evolution in the form of Wynot, which you can get by breeding Wobbuffet while it's holding the Lax Incense item. However, that item is not available until very late into the post-game. In the Marshland area, you can find Grimer in the grass and via surfing, unless it's nighttime, in which case you can still find it by surfing. Not sure what that is, but we'll roll with it. Going into Grimer as a Pokemon, it's meant to be a weirdly specially defensive tank. It sports decent HP, attack, and special defense right from the start, which only gets better once you get Grimer to evolve into Muck at level 38. It is some strangely bizarre utility in battle, not only being able to inflict poison, but also being one of very few Pokemon to learn the move Minimize, a move that raises a Pokemon's evasiveness. And while its level up moveset doesn't have a ton of variety outside of poison and ground type attacks, it's surprisingly diverse when it comes to what it can learn via TMs, breeding, and move tutors, including learning all the elemental punches and explosion of all things. And with base 105 attack, it can hit really hard with the right moves. That said, Muck still has its problems. As expected of a tank, it's very slow and will often get hit first before it gets to do anything. Its level up moves also do not play to its strengths. Muck is definitely a case of a Pokemon that did not benefit from the physical special split, because before Gen 4, all poison moves were considered physical, thus playing to Muck's strengths. But now, the vast majority of poison type moves are special attacks, and the few that are physical either come very late or are locked behind TMs. Your best bet for Muck is to give it the Poison Jab TM if you want to see it at its best, which will not be available until the post-game. The fact that Grimer doesn't evolve until level 38 is also seriously not helpful, especially in this game. If you're looking for a defensive status spreader or a physical attacking poison type, Grimer is a serviceable option, but unfortunately, it's ultimately outclassed by other poison types that either have better special attack or have a wider variety of options. Next up, in the forest area, Mr. Mime hangs around here during the morning and daytime. I bet some of you are a bit surprised to see him this early. Going into Mr. Mime as a Pokemon, it's one of the most underrated psychic types, in my opinion. It has a lot going for it between 100 special attack, 120 special defense, and 90 speed, giving it the means to be a good sweeper and a decent special tank. It has a lot of great support moves such as Barrier, Copycat, Encore, Mimic, Light Screen, Reflect, and Substitute. And while Substitute may not seem rare considering that it's possible for almost every single Pokemon to learn it, it's worth noting that Mr. Mime is one of only 4 Pokemon in the entire game that can learn it via level up. It also has plenty of compatibility with a lot of great TMs for coverage, including Shadow Ball, Thunderbolt, Focus Blast, and Energy Ball. It can even learn Aerial Ace if you wanted to for some reason. Plus, in this game, Mr. Mime got a signature ability in the form of Filter, a fantastic ability that reduces super effective damage by 25%, which is especially nice considering that Mr. Mime doesn't have any quad weaknesses. That said, Mr. Mime doesn't have the best defense and its HP stat is very low, making it vulnerable to priority moves and physical sweepers, which are more prominent than ever in this generation, especially since Mr. Mime is not part Fairy type yet and is currently still weak to Dark types. You definitely want to be extremely careful when pitting Mr. Mime against major physical threats. Even so, Mr. Mime is still a really fun Psychic type that can be both offensively viable and a great support Pokemon for your team if you decide to raise it. Just be a little cautious and go with a good strategy. But there are 2 other things to keep in mind. If you do decide to raise it now, you need to work to get it from the Safari Zone now, because Mr. Mime is otherwise not going to be available until the post-game. Additionally, in this generation, Mr. Mime got a pre-evolution in the form of Mime Jr., which, while objectively worse, is actually relatively solid for a baby Pokemon, and it's one of only 2 Pokemon that requires knowing the move Mimic in order to evolve, which it will get at level 18. If you want to breed Mr. Mime to get Mime Jr., however, you won't be able to do that until you get the Odd Incense, which is not available until very late into the post-game. Next up, found in the mountain area during the morning or daytime, is Larvitar. I bet some of you are seriously surprised to see Larvitar this early. Eagle-eyed viewers will be aware that back in Gen 2, Larvitar is a Pokemon that's only available to be caught super late into the post-game, and the uninformed presume that to be the case in the remakes. But nope, with a little bit of work, it's totally possible for Larvitar to be caught at this point in the game. Which is good, because Larvitar requires a lot of work to reach its full potential. So let's break this down. Looking at Larvitar, it doesn't have the best stats from the outset, and it will struggle to keep up at first. There are baby Pokemon with higher stat totals than Larvitar, but its moves are ridiculously good from the get-go. It knows Bite right from the start, learns Rock Slide at level 14, Thrash at level 23, and Dark Pulse at level 28, among other moves. Plus, at this stage, it has Guts for the ability, which increases Larvitar's attack by 50% if it ever is afflicted with a status condition. That allows it to hit even harder under the right conditions. Once it gets to level 30, it evolves into Pupitar. As its appearance and name implies, Pupitar is meant to be a more defensive form that grows something amazing inside its shell. While it still has a slightly below average stat total, it still improves all around and changes its ability to Shed Skin, an ability that allows it to heal its own status conditions. Plus, it gets even more great moves during this stage, including Payback at level 34, Crunch at level 41, Earthquake at level 47, and Stone Edge at level 54. All fantastic moves. The only minor problem with these moves is that Pupitar is a rock ground type, meaning that it won't benefit from the same type attack boost from using all these dark type moves. However, once you complete the agonizing process of getting Pupitar to level 55, it all becomes worth it when it evolves into Tyranitar, our second pseudo-legendary. This thing is an absolute monster with fantastic stats across the board aside from speed. It changes its type from Rock Ground to Rock Dark, removing many of its weaknesses and allowing its Dark type moves to hit at full force. Plus, it gets access to even more great moves via level up, including all the Elemental Fang attacks and naturally learning Hyper Beam through level up. This monster was also made immeasurably better in Gen 4. Not only can it hit hard as a physical rock and dark type, while providing a myriad of coverages with its natural moveset and its compatibility with moves from other sources, including the Elemental Punches, Aqua Tail, Earth Power, Iron Head, Superpower, and Outrage. But its Sandstorm ability also improved considerably. Originally, all Sandstream did was summon the Sandstorm weather in battle, which deals chip damage at the end of every turn to every Pokemon that wasn't a rock, ground, or steel type. Plenty helpful, but it didn't outright benefit Tyranitar. However, in Gen 4, they buffed the effects of Sandstorm to benefit rock types by increasing their special defense by 50% when inside a Sandstorm. Not that Tyranitar is exactly lacking in special defense, but this buff increases its special defense from base 100 to base 150, essentially giving it more special defense than Mantine. Plus, in this generation, Sandstorms created by a Sandstream last forever as long as another weather ability or move isn't used. So Tyranitar can thrive in Sandstorm as long as it wants and destroy everything in its path. The only legitimate problems with Tyranitar, aside from its quad weakness to fighting types, are that regardless of whether you catch Larvitar now or later, Tyranitar's evolution level is still extremely high, and unless you are willing to do an utterly absurd amount of grinding, it's highly unlikely you will get to use Tyranitar itself until you get to the post-game. Plus, while Sandstream is decently helpful to Tyranitar, it can be a potential problem for the rest of your team, especially if none of your other party members are rock, ground, or steel type. Regardless, with this knowledge in mind, I hope you at least consider catching Larvitar here. It's a metric ton of work, but it's 100% worth you raising it in the long run. Also found in the mountain area during the morning or daytime is Lickitung. Man, the mountain area sure has a range of quality here. Okay, all kidding aside, Lickitung is really not that great. It does have decent HP and slightly above average defenses, which will enable it to take hits decently well. Like many normal types, Lickitung does have compatibility with a lot of TMs. It gets the elemental punches through move tutors and learns Power Whip at level 49. Depending on whether you get Oblivious or Own Tempo for an ability, Lickitung will either be immune to being infatuated or being confused, respectively. Okay, that's all the positives I can muster. This thing is horrible. It's incredibly slow, its offensive stats are below average, even making Dunsparce and Farfetch look better by comparison. And without TMs, the vast majority of what it learns via level up are normal attacks, which is fine for same type attack boosts, not great for coverage. That said, it did receive a brand new evolution in this generation in the form of Licky. And unlike a lot of Gen 4 evolutions we've seen so far, this evolution doesn't require too much. Just have Lickitung learn Rollout, which it will naturally get at level 33, and you will get this ugly thing. While its stats do notably improve, giving Licky more bulk and now decent offensive power to boot, it's just so underwhelming in comparison to its peers. And it's still incredibly slow, and again, it's just so ugly. The best light I can put it in is that Licky could be considered a jack-of-all-trades Pokemon, with it being decent at most things, but not exceptional at anything. But there are so many better normal types out there. Obviously, I can't stop you from getting this thing if you want it, but just remember some of the amazing normal types that we've encountered so far before you decide. Next up, found weirdly in the swamp area during the morning and daytime, is Jigglypuff. What, did they float in from New Orleans or something? Whatever. First of all, as this game came out before Pokemon X and Y, Jigglypuff is not a normal fairy type, just pure normal. Looking at Jigglypuff as is, you can probably see the obvious problem with this Pokemon, but let's focus on its strengths. It is a normal type, so it has only one weakness and an immunity to Ghost. It has a relatively rare ability in the form of Cute Charm, which will infatuate Pokemon of the opposite gender if they hit Jigglypuff with a physical attack. It gets its famous Sing move right off the bat, which can put opposing Pokemon to sleep, which will then upset Jigglypuff's delicate feelings, causing it to draw silly faces on everyone that falls asleep. Okay, you know what? No matter what I say next, if that were an actual mechanic in game, that would make this Pokemon 1000% worth using. Anyway, the problem with Jigglypuff is its stats. Aside from an admittedly spectacular HP stat, Jigglypuff's stats are all extremely below average. Even Sunkern has higher defenses and speed. As a result of this, Jigglypuff's potential is severely lacking. It can neither take hits nor dish them out, and it lacks support moves outside of Sing, holding it back in comparison to its peers in just about every regard. However, if you give Jigglypuff a Moonstone, it will evolve into Wigglytuff, giving it a noteworthy improvement to all of its stats. It has 140 base HP, giving it the 8th highest HP stat in the game. And whilst defenses and speed are still relatively lacking, its offensive power does improve to the point where it is at least usable. As a normal type, Wigglytuff does have access to a lot of moves via TMs and move tutors, including the elemental punches and some additional support utility. However, it is still ultimately outclassed by other normal types, including Licky Licky, unfortunately. Also, it does have a pre-evolution in the form of Igglybuff, which you can get right now through breeding, but unless you really need Jigglypuff to get either Sweet Kiss or Copycat, I would pass on raising this one. If you absolutely must raise a Jigglypuff, do know that unless you have extreme amounts of patience or vast access to good TMs, it's going to be a very long, very uphill road. Sorry, Wigglytuff. You'll always be the guild master in my heart, though. Also found in the swamp area at any time is Murkrow. Now, this is a little mafioso that was made so much better in this game. Right out of the gate, it has decent attack and special attack at base 85 each and 91 speed, allowing Murkrow to hit decently hard and fast with any kind of attack. Its type combination of Flying and Dark allows it to deal with a good mix of both common types like Grass and Fighting, and less common types like Psychic and Ghost. And through breeding and move tutors, Murkrow can actually learn some of the absolute best flying type moves in the game, including Brave Bird, Drill Peck, Mirror Move, and Sky Attack, among other things. However, Murkrow is pretty fragile with that base 42 defense and special defense, making Murkrow a bit of a glass bayonet. Additionally, while its breeding moves are perfectly acceptable, its actual level up moves are pretty lacking. It gets Pursuit, Wing Attack, and Assurance early enough, but after that, the best move Murkrow gets to level up is Sucker Punch at level 45. So you're definitely going to need to invest some time, resources, and maybe a little effort from some other Pokemon for Murkrow to be any good, especially when it comes to learning any decent Dark-type moves. Luckily, in addition to Murkrow benefiting from the physical special split, it also got a much-needed evolution in the form of Honchkrow, giving it even better offensive stats and an impressive boost to its HP stat at the cost of a little speed. And while some people may see the speed decrease as a negative, which, to be fair, it objectively is, I see it as somewhat of a positive. Any evolution that decreases stats in favor of making other stats higher is a lot more interesting in my opinion, and gives more depth to the decision to evolve the Pokemon itself. Plus, even though Honchkrow does miss out on learning a couple of moves if it evolves too early, it also gets moves that only it can learn, including Dark Pulse and Night Slash, a 70 base power physical attack with a high critical hit ratio, which can be boosted further thanks to Honchkro's potential super luck ability. Finally, Murkrow can be the mob boss it always wanted to be. That said, however much improved, Honchkrow still doesn't have the best defenses in the world, and will still require breeding or TMs to get its better flying type moves. And in order to evolve Murkrow into Honchkrow, you need the Duskstone. And again, it is obtainable in the game, but, say it with me, not until the post-game. So if you plan on raising a Murkrow, know that you will have to run with it as is for quite a while. But once you get Honchkrow, it will be all the more worth it. Moving on to the Wasteland area, there is one new Pokemon that we can find here during the morning/daytime. The classic Safari Zone Pokemon itself, Kangaskhan. This Pokemon is one of the most well-rounded normal types in the game. Aside from its special attack, Kangaskhan has good stats across the board, especially its HP and attack, allowing it to hit hard and take hits well. As a normal type, it can learn a variety of great moves from any source. But what helps to set Kangaskhan apart from the others are the rare moves that it gets through level up. It's one of only 3 Pokemon in the entire game that can learn Mega Punch through level up, and only one of 5 Pokemon that can learn Dizzy Punch through level up, a base 70 power physical normal type attack that has a 20% chance of confusing the opponent. In addition, Kangaskhan can also learn the move Outrage at level 37, and is the only normal type in the entire game who can learn this move through level up. If that is not the power of an enraged protective mother, I don't know what is. Kangaskhan can also come with the Scrappy ability, which can give it the ability to hit ghost types with its normal and fighting type attacks. Honestly, the only real problem with Kangaskhan is that there are so many good normal types that we've seen so far that it's just difficult to get it to stand out. But regardless, it's a viable, bulky physical attacker with good versatility and solid stats. It's not top tier, but it can absolutely pull its weight on any team. Next up, found in the Plains area during the morning/daytime is Smeargle. Now, before we get into Smeargle as a Pokemon, I do want to set the record straight and say that this is the other Pokemon that we could have caught at the Ruins of Alph alongside Natu. However, my reasons for forgoing talking about it until now lie beyond simply wanting to be sure I had a new Pokemon for the Plains area. And it all has to do with Smeargle's gimmick. Smeargle is one of, if not the most gimmicky Pokemon in the game. All of its stats, with the exception of its speed, are well below average. It can't learn any moves via TMs, move tutors, or breeding. It's also a crapshoot as to whether or not it will have a decent ability. On the one hand, you can get Technician on this, which is actually pretty good, as I've said many times. On the other hand, it could have Own Tempo, which only prevents Smeargle from getting confused. Kind of a throwaway ability if I'm being brutally honest. So what exactly does Smeargle do? Well, you could say everything. Smeargle is the only Pokemon in the game that can learn the move Sketch. It's the only move it ever gets, but it's the only move it needs. Sketch copies the last move used by the opponent, but unlike Mimic or Copycat, this move copies the opponent's move permanently, turning Sketch into potentially any move in the entire game. And with Smeargle relearning Sketch every 10 levels, this allows you to have Smeargle construct practically any moveset that you would want it to have. Any combination of 4 moves that you could think of, Smeargle can theoretically learn it. This gives Smeargle almost unlimited potential. Now, some players out there who have only played the modern Pokemon games might think that's not true, as modern Pokemon games have put some restrictions on Smeargle as far as what it can learn and use with Sketch, and for no reason other than they don't want us to have fun. But in Gen 4, those restrictions don't really exist. Aside from Sketch itself, the only moves that cannot be sketched are Struggle, the move that comes only as a result of using all of a Pokemon's power points, and the move Chatter. And the only reason why Chatter cannot be sketched is because of the mechanic that Chatter utilizes in Gen 4 outside of battle. But we'll talk about that move another day. Now, as far as actually using this Pokemon, I don't necessarily recommend this for single player due to its lackluster stats. However, I do recommend this for multiplayer, and I'll actually recommend a moveset to you. The best way to utilize Smeargle competitively, in my opinion, is to have it use rare support moves. First and foremost, have it learn Spore. It's an incredibly rare move that can otherwise only be learned by 3 Pokemon in the entire game, but it's a 100% accurate move that puts the opponent to sleep. Next, have it sketch Substitute. This will support both it and other Pokemon with the completed moveset. Then, have Smeargle sketch a stat boosting move like Agility, Sword Stance, or Iron Defense, depending on what you're looking to support. Lastly, have Smeargle sketch Baton Pass, a move that will switch Smeargle out with one of your other Pokemon and transfer all of its stat boosts and its substitute to it. With this, Smeargle can be a great asset by debilitating opposing Pokemon while setting your other Pokemon up for success. And that's just one of many options you could run. So with all the amazing things that Smeargle can do, why exactly do I not recommend catching it at the Ruins of Alph and instead recommend waiting until now? Well, unless you're incredibly lucky when you throw your Pokeball on turn 1, what will happen in a conventional battle is either Smeargle will use its one sketch and fail, and then more likely than not take itself out with struggle on the next turn, or what can happen is that you damage Smeargle with a weak attack, Smeargle uses sketch and copies that weak attack, and then you're stuck with Smeargle only knowing that weak attack until it levels up enough. Because Smeargle cannot use its moves in the Safari Zone, this place allows you to capture Smeargle safely and keep the first sketch for yourself. Next up, found in the meadow area at night is Clefairy. Let's get the obvious thing out of the way first. Despite also being referred to as the fairy Pokemon, Clefairy is not a fairy type in this game. Going into Clefairy as a Pokemon, it starts off with some moderate stats, sporting decent HP and middling special attack and special defense. It learns a myriad of really fun support moves to level up, including Follow Me and Minimize, which pair well together, Cosmic Power to boost its defenses, Moonlight to restore its HP, and Healing Wish, which can be helpful in competitive play. It also has access to some more fun moves, like Wake Up Slap, Metronome, a move that results in the Pokemon using any random move that exists, and the incredibly rare Meteor Mash, a base 100 power physical steel type attack that has a 20% chance to boost the user's attack afterwards. And that's just what it can learn through level up. There's also the matter of its abilities, each of which can have their own utility. Much like Jigglypuff, it can come with a Q-Charm ability, which can be helpful against the right physical opponents. But my preferred ability on Clefairy is its signature Magic Guard ability, which in my opinion is one of the absolute best abilities in the game. Magic Guard makes it so that Clefairy can only take damage from attacks. That may not seem like much on the surface, but when you factor in status conditions, entry hazards, inclement weather, and damage trap moves like Fire Spin and Sand Tomb, especially in an age where Stealth Rock reigns supreme, to have a straight up counter to all of that is insanely good. Once you can evolve it into Clefable with a Moonstone, it gets even better, sporting more well-rounded stats and much improved bulk, allowing it to hit decently hard while taking hits decently well. And like many normal types we've discussed, Clefable is compatible with a lot of TMs and move tutor moves to provide it with all sorts of coverage, including moves like Thunderbolt, Ice Beam, Flamethrower, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Thunder Wave, Palm Line, etc. It's great! That said, it doesn't have any particularly outstanding stats, and it's a little outclassed by other normal types. Also, you will have to be patient if you want to get the most out of Clefairy's moveset before it evolves, as most of its level up moves are not available to Clefable through level up like many Stone evolutions. At the very least, I recommend trying to work with Clefairy until level 43, where it will get Meteor Mash. Also, Clefairy does have a pre-evolution in the form of Cleffa, which you can obtain right now through breeding if you want. But the only reason I would consider doing this is if you really wanted to learn either Copycat or Magical Leaf, which neither evolution receives otherwise. Either way, if you're willing to put in the work and resources, Clefairy can be a blast to play with and a great asset to your team. Also, did you know that Clefairy was actually originally meant to be the face of the entire Pokemon franchise? I'm serious. It was the signature Pokemon of Red in the original Pokemon Adventures manga, and was originally intended to be the face of the franchise alongside Red's Poliwhirl. However, between the manga's lack of timely localization in the West, the dark and adult themes found within, and the overabundance of pink on Clefairy's part, which may or may not have led Game Freak to believe that it would only appeal to girls, Game Freak shifted towards Pikachu, who they assumed would appeal to everyone. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. Next up, found only during the morning and daytime at the Rocky Beach area, is Doduo. Have you ever looked at a bird and thought to yourself, what is going on inside its head? Now imagine asking that question about a 4'7" bird with 2 heads that for some reason, despite not having any wings, is capable of learning fly. That's Doduo. And may I just say, if none of the normal flying type birds I've recommended so far have appealed to you, this is the one you should consider. This thing is a glass bayonet bird. It hits hard, it's really fast, but cannot take a hit very well. With base 85 attack and 75 speed right out of the gate, this thing can tear through opponents before they know what hit them. It's one of very few Pokemon capable of learning Drill Peck, which instantly makes it one of the best flying type attackers you can get. And once it evolves into Dodrio at level 31, its stats shoot up even higher, giving it 100 speed and 110 attack, letting it drill through most anything. Plus, Dodrio gets another incredibly rare move in the form of Tri-Attack, a base 80 power special attack with a 20% chance to either burn, freeze, or paralyze the opponent. Although it's not as useful as it once was on Dodrio since it's no longer considered a physical attack. Regardless, it's still very lacking in bulk, so you will have to rely on its incredibly high attack and speed if you want Dodrio to see any success. Also, its moveset is not the most diverse, mostly having normal and flying type moves, even if you factor things like TMs, move tutors, or breeding. But honestly, it's just so darn good at what it can do. Who cares if it doesn't get a ton of coverage? It's a great bird that deserves a lot more love than it gets. If you don't want to bother catching it in the Safari Zone, you will have an opportunity to catch it later. However, while I won't say it's not available until the post-game, it won't otherwise be available until at least the final stretch of the main story. So I'd recommend getting it now if you plan on raising it. Also, according to the Pokédex, one of Doduo's heads splits into 2 when it evolves into Dodrio. Dodrio can process information 3 times as fast, but remains immobile while it does. It can keep one head awake while the other 2 sleep. Each head is meant to represent and convey a different emotion. And in addition to 3 heads, Dodrio somehow has 3 hearts and 3 sets of lungs inside its body, but apparently only 1 stomach, since it only requires one of its heads to eat to satisfy the other 2. Which begs the underlying question: how does this bird function? Now, before we move on to the next Pokemon, I do want to point out that in the Rocky Beach area, you can also find Lapras here. I still personally recommend getting the Lapras from Union Cave, but if you're more willing to try getting it here than in a specific cave on a specific day, then this is the more convenient catch by comparison. Charging ahead to the Savannah area during the daytime, we can find Rhyhorn, yet another staple of any respectable Safari Zone. This Charizard-sounding beast is different from most Pokemon with its type combination. Despite what people assume, Rhyhorn is not a rock-ground type. It's actually a ground-rock type. It doesn't make any practical difference, but it's a difference nonetheless. Rhyhorn actually has great physical stats right from the start. Base 80 HP, 85 attack, and 95 defense are very impressive for a basic Sage Pokemon. However, in exchange, it is paper-thin special defense and molasses speed that would make Sunkern look fast. And its special attack stat is so low that it's practically not worth talking about. This thing will struggle against fast special attackers. That said, its physical stats and amazing moves are so good that it's worth the risks. Rock Blast, Takedown, Horn Drill, Stone Edge, Earthquake, and Mega Horn are all part of its natural moveset. And once you get it to level 42, which is admittedly very late, it will evolve into Rhydon and get the move Hammer Arm. This beast has even better physical stats, with 105 HP, 130 attack, and 120 defense, making it an absolute physical unit that can mow down just about anything in front of it. And while its remaining stats are still negligible and problematic, they have gone up and improved its survivability, though you still need to remain very cautious. Plus, fun fact, Rhydon was actually the first Pokemon ever. While the in-game lore and Pokédex details may suggest otherwise, the reality is that Rhydon was the very first Pokemon that was created by Ken Sugimori. This alone should sell you on considering Rhydon as a party member. Regardless of how long it takes to get, it is, for all intents and purposes, the OG Pokemon. But if you're not quite sold yet, good news, I'm not finished. Lord knows I'm not. If you trade away Rhydon while it's holding the Protector item, you get access to Rhydon's new evolution, Rhyperior. This colossal beast sports even better physical stats than Rhydon, gets access to Poison Jab through the move relearner, and gets a signature attack in the form of Rock Wrecker at level 61. This is a 150 power physical rock type attack that requires recharge. It's basically a rock type Giga Impact. Plus, Rhyperior gets access to a ton of coverage moves between TMs and move tuner moves, including all the elemental punches, Aqua Tail, Iron Head, Outrage, and Superpower. If that weren't enough, Rhyperior can get a signature ability in the form of Solid Rock, which is a very rare ability that reduces super effective damage by 25%, provided you raise a Rhyhorn with the Rock Head ability. Considering how much Rhyperior will still struggle against special attackers, this is an absolute must. That said, in normal play, you will not be using this thing until very late into the postgame, as the Protector item is locked behind areas that we will not have proper access to for a long time. So if you plan on raising a Rhyhorn, know that you will be working with both it and Rhydon for a long while. But once you get Rhyperior, it will be entirely worth it. And finally, in the desert area during the morning or daytime, you can find Cubone. Now, before we get into this, I gotta ask, why on earth did they make this thing so sad in so many ways? Its original name in the red and blue beta was literally called Orphon, based on the word orphan. It's the most victimized Pokemon by Team Rocket, being known to wear the skulls of ancient Pokemon until its mother dies at Team Rocket's hands, at which point it then wears their mother's skull. And according to an interview with Satoshi Taijiri, one of the co-founders of Game Freak, the entire origin of this thing was created out of the thought of how sad it would be for a Pokemon to die. What the Game Freak? Anyway, going into Cubone as a Pokemon, aside from its pretty solid defense, Cubone's stats are pretty below average, especially when it comes to its speed. However, what sets Cubone apart from its peers is its type and moves. First, it is a pure ground type, meaning that it is not quad weak to anything. And second, it gets multiple unique moves exclusive to it. At level 7, it gets Bone Club, a base 65 power physical ground type move that has a 10% chance to make the target flinch. At level 21, it gets Bone Meringue, a base 50 power ground type move that hits twice. It will soon after evolve into Marowak at level 28, giving it improved stats, especially when it comes to its physical attack and defenses, making it a pretty defensive tank. It will then get another signature move called Bone Rush at level 43, a base 25 power move that hits 2 to 5 times. Okay, technically it's not unique to Marowak anymore because there's one other Pokemon that gets it, but let's be honest, Marowak has first dibs and is still the best user of Bone Rush by comparison. Plus, Marowak has surprisingly large access to a lot of coverage move via TMs and move tutors, giving it a lot of potential variety. If you do plan on raising one, I highly recommend two things, because these will drastically affect your experience of raising one. One, make sure it has the Rock Head ability, as it learns Double Edge through level up and can benefit well with the Rock Head backing it up. But the other thing to do is to try to get the Thick Club item. Both Cubone and Marowak will be holding this item 5% of the time when you encounter them. While they are holding this item, their base attack doubles. All of a sudden, this one item changes them from a decent tank to one of the most fearsome ground types in the game. Marowak could be spamming Earthquakes with base 160 attack if you do this. So please give these Pokemon some love, because God knows they need it. And with all that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and end this episode here. I know that we have not covered everything that there is to do with the Safari Zone, but like I said, we need the clock to advance a little further on, and I'm not willing to wait an insanely long time. Plus, this video has gone on long enough as it is. So, next time on Pokemon HeartGold, we're going to head back to Ecruteak City, and we're going to see what lies east of Ecruteak, now that we have fully established what all lies west. See you guys then.